Hi everybody, welcome to Shock Factor series video number 8. And again, in this video, I shall be basically revealing the eighth hurdle in applying or in trying to apply technical analysis in the markets or to the markets. Okay, this is another shocking video and a very common mistake that a lot of traders make, especially when it comes to backtesting. So this video is about the challenges in trying to apply or basically trying to employ a good or proper backtesting technique and trying to understand the results of the technique. So again, this video is entitled Improper Backtesting Analysis. Okay, so a lot of traders, when they do a backtest of, say, a certain technical system or something like that, a lot of times they don't understand, okay, the implications of the back-tested results. Okay, so in this video, I'm not going to address all the different aspects of backtesting. I'm only going to address only one particular facet, okay, or element of backtesting analysis, and that is to do with backtesting for the greatest profit. I'm only going to address in this video elements that relate to backtesting for the largest or the greatest profit or greatest gain. For example, when using a moving average, okay? So I'm going to use the idea of a moving average as the basis of our backtest. And it's going to be a very simple backtest. For example, this is what a lot of people do whenever they use a moving average or moving averages as the basis for their backtest, is to test multiple moving averages, maybe about 100 to 200 different look-back periods for various moving averages, to identify which moving average or which number of moving averages resulted in a profit, in a gain, and which one gave the greatest, the largest gain. This is normally what conventional traders do. They backtest, for example, a moving average, a number of moving averages with different look-back periods, just to try to identify the top few moving averages with the various associated look-back periods in order to look for the highest gain over, say, a certain specified period. Okay, and that's what they do. And once they have identified that, what they do is to use those specific moving averages that they have identified as giving the greatest gains over the specified backtest period, and use them and implement them and apply them as part of their trade setup, okay, or trading system setup, in the hope of projecting what they make going forward based on the backtested results over that particular specified backtesting period. And this is the standard procedure. And a lot of software can do that. A lot of trading platform software can do that. So it's quite common, and most of them are free. You don't have to pay for that. Unless it's a very complicated type of backtest. So I'm going to keep it simple for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of creating a high degree of clarity. In this video, I'm just going to use a simple idea. We are going to use a moving average, we're going to backtest various moving averages and look at their final result based on their balance curve or equity curve. But I'm going to use the equity curve. Okay, as explained in the previous video, Shock Factor video number 7. Okay, I have already explained what the difference between equity and balance curves. Okay, but in this video, I'm just going to look at the equity curve. Again, this is only an illustration. Okay, just an illustration going forward. It's just a mental experiment just to help you understand why sometimes when traders backtest to look for the greatest gains, which look-back period gave the greatest gains over a certain specified backtest period. So again, that is what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm going to keep it simple. I mean, there are a lot of elements in backtesting that you can identify or recognize, but I'm not going to cover all that. But I'm going to keep it so simple. I'm just going to backtest for the greatest gains using a moving average. For example, if price rises above a moving average, we go long. If it goes below the moving average, we go short. That's all. As simple as that. With no stop loss and no take profit, nothing. Just as simple as that. Okay, let's begin. Before we do that, I just want to make something very clear. For example, in standard backtesting procedure, a backtest will consist of three different phases. The first phase is we backtest using in-sample data. The second phase, we backtest again using out-sample data. And finally, we use out-sample data, but this is going forward into the future. This is progressing into the future. This data is done live. Basically, another word for it is, okay, live forward testing is a forward walkthrough to test it live in the markets, to see whether it works, okay? To see whether this conforms or confirms the results that we received during the backtesting period, using in-sample and out-of-sample data. Basically, these are all historical data. This is not historical data. This is progressive data live going forward in the market, looking at the right-hand side of the chart, okay? All right. So again, we've got historical data, or two phases of testing using historical data, and one final part using live data going forward. So this is standard. This is the standard procedure for any backtest. Okay. Well, this is the proper way of doing it. Okay. So let me just explain this. I mean, you can always go to Google and just type in what is the meaning of in-sample data. You get a much better explanation than what I'm going to give you here. Much more detail. But again, I'm not going to go into all this. I just want to bring this to the forefront of a discussion before we go forward and identify the greatest pitfall in backtesting for the highest gains, okay? Because a lot of traders, I won't say all traders, but most traders, as far as I've seen from my experience, they misinterpret the results. They think they have found the Holy Grail. They think they found the answer, but no. You know why? This is what normally happens. You test something using data over the last, say, from 2020 to 2022. Okay, so you use the historical data from 2020 to 2022 to test for the moving average that will give you the greatest returns. And for example, let's say you found that the moving average that resulted, that generated the greatest returns over the period between 2020 to the end of 2022. Let's assume that moving average is the 78 period moving average. Okay. For example, let's say based on a weekly chart, for example. Okay. Now you have that information. Okay. Okay. All right. But you have to make sure that the amount of trades that were initiated or tested during the in-sample data period was sufficient. Not just 3 or 4 trades. It has to be at least over between 100 to 500 trades, at least. In fact, the more the better. Assuming you're not trading the weekly chart, you're trading, say, the daily chart or the hourly chart or the 4-hour chart, then you will have much more, well, your results will be more statistically significant, okay, to put it in a simple way. So this represents data used to develop the trading strategy and test for profitability and performance. Data, historical data based from the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2022, okay? So that within that 2-year period, the historical data used or employed or implemented during that 2-year period, that historical data gave a certain result. And it so happens that a 78 period moving average gave you the highest returns. And what you do next is go to the next phase and test the trading system again, using again this represents historical data, but let's say this is from the beginning of 2023 to the end of 2024, the following 2 years. Okay, so this is the first historical period data that you use to develop your strategy and look and try to identify and recognize the moving average that give you the highest gains, or at least the first top 5 moving averages that give you the highest gains. Let's say the top 5, 78, and another 3 or 4 more. Okay. And below that, you're not interested because the gains were too small. And beyond that, you have a lot of moving averages that resulted in a loss as well. So you have a range of results of various moving averages with different look-back periods, giving you gain from high gains to the highest gains to the greatest loss. Okay. So now you test it again in phase 2, again using historical data, and try to verify the results that you received or that was produced in the first phase using data from 2020 to 2022. Let's assume that it corroborates perfectly. Perfect corroboration. Perfect. The results you got here is like, let's assume it's like 99% similar to what you got here. So now you have well, you have a boost in confidence, let's say. Okay, say, oh, okay, this is great, this is excellent. I have a confirmation, I have a corroboration or confirmation between the results I received in phase 1 compared to the results I received in phase 2. So far, everything looks hunky-dory and everything is wonderful. The birds are singing and the skies are blue. Wonderful stuff. Okay, let's go forward now. So now, you're ready to test it in the real markets, in the live markets. This is now, we are out of the realm of historical data. We are testing the unknown. We're jumping into the unknown, okay? The unknown. And let's see whether it works in the live markets. So now you test. From this point onwards, whatever you receive here, you try your very best to dovetail and to come to some kind of, based on your analysis of the results you receive in phase 1 and phase 2, to come up with the top five moving averages that you think will give you the greatest results, because they almost confirm perfectly a 99% level of confirmation between phase 1 and phase 2 with respect to those 5 moving averages that give you the highest gains. So now you're ready to go live. Okay, now let me go forward now. Let's press on to the next slide and let me show you, okay, and let me illustrate to you the greatest mistake that traders make, especially when backtesting for the largest gains, okay, for the largest gain over a certain specified period. And going forward, using that data to trade the markets live. And most of the time, they will find that whatever results that they received during phase 1 and phase 2, the moment they enter the live market, there is a high probability that this will not conform. Your projections will not conform to what you think they will be. No. So your 5 top winning moving averages, there's a high probability that they will start losing money. This happens all the time. And traders, they get confused. See, it worked in the first 2 years, it worked in the following 2 years, and the moment I go live, it starts losing money. Why? Why is that? Is there some unseen forces that are working at hand? I mean, honestly, how do we explain that? In this video, I'm going to show you the mistakes that traders do. Okay, that's why I call it improper backtesting analysis. They've analyzed it in a wrong manner. Okay? All right, so let me show you how to do that. Let's press on to the next slide. Okay, in this slide, I'm going to explain to you where the pitfalls are and what is the greatest mistake that traders do when trying to analyze backtested results. Okay, all right, so let's press on. Just give me a second. Let me just adjust something here. Okay, so let's analyze and try to understand what this illustration in front of you actually means. Okay, let me try to explain. Before I go forward, let me explain what this represents here, okay, in front of you. This is the equity. So these are all equity curves. How much money you made over a certain period of time or over a certain number of trades. Okay, these are all equity curves. It could be balance curve as well. You could use the balance curve. Balance against the number of trades, okay? Number of trades. On the x-axis and the y-axis, we can use either equity or balance. But in this case, I prefer to use equity, as already explained in the previous video why I'm doing this. Okay, but again, you can use 2 different charts. Okay, you can use equity in one and also observe the balance in the other. But for the sake of simplicity and a high degree of clarification, in this video, because I do not intend for this video to be a long video, just short, succinct, straight to the point, and let's just get to the meat and potato part of it. Okay. So equity on one axis, number of trades on the other. So all this represents equity. That means here your capital in your account is rising. Here your capital account. The capital in your account is falling, okay, and so on. So these are not moving averages. These are based on various moving averages, but this represents the equity curve, your capital, your capital action, the action of your equity or capital as you proceed with trading going forward. Okay, all right. So these are all equity curves. So in this case, I have 5 equity curves right in front of you, and again we start with an initial capital here. Okay, Let's assume this is your initial capital, the amount you put in when you started trade. As you started to trade the particular system. Again, this will be a virtual capital, because this is all historical data. Let's assume that this is your in-sample historical data period. So this is all your historical testing, and everything was going. Let's assume this is phase 2, and you found that phase 2 and phase 1 had a super high, a 99% degree of correlation. They both agree and confirm the results of the top 5. Or whatever it is, moving averages that you were using, okay? All right, so again, let's assume that these are the moving averages that you're testing. So this is your testing period, historical testing period, and from this point onwards, okay, from the vertical line onwards, this is live. Our sample means live. You're testing live going forward, okay? All right? Okay, so let's talk about this period first, okay? Back testing using historical data. So you have five moving averages that you tested, and each one gave you a different equity action or capital action. Capital action as you move forward, as you go forward trading, okay? As you go forward implementing the trading system across more and more trades, but again using historical data. So here, let's assume that we have 5 moving averages and each one produced a different equity curve. Okay? Now, on the day that you wanted to go live, and the only thing that you were looking at, let's assume that the only thing that you're looking at, you're blinkered, you have tunnel vision, the only thing that excites you and the only thing that you want to consider, okay, is which moving average gave you the highest, or at least a gain over the testing period. So as you can see, let's assume moving average number 1 gave you this. So at the end of the testing period, just before you go live, don't forget, let me just say this again. The vertical dotted line, that is the day you started to go live. This is forward testing, to test it in the real markets, okay? This is all back testing, okay? This is forward testing. All right, so let's start now. So you chose the 5 moving averages that give you the greatest gains, for example, all right? Or at least the 4, okay? But again, it's not perfect, but you're trying to find a sense of continuity, in the performance, okay, based on your back-tested results going forward into the future with a high degree of accuracy, giving your projections a high degree of consistency. Okay, let's proceed. So again, we've chosen 5 moving averages, and these are the equity curves for all the different 5. So the day just before you go live, which is on this state here, this is the day you go live, going forward, you found that these 4 moving averages gave you an equity curve that all made money, all resulted in a gain. Okay, in a gain above from this initial capital, above your initial capital. So let's assume this is 10,000. You start with 10,000. At the end of the backtest period, these 4 moving averages, which resulted in these 4 equity curves, all gave you a gain, with this giving you the greatest gain, the highest gain. Okay, let's call it our moving average B, or in this case, which resulted in equity curve B. Okay, so this gives you the highest gain, and all these 3 gave you a similar gain, almost identical, but they all are profitable. So these 4 moving averages, which resulted in these 4 equity curves, all displayed a gain above your initial capital. So this is your initial capital here. This all resulted in a gain, okay, above your initial capital. One of the moving averages, let's call it moving average C, which gave you an equity curve, which produced or generated an equity curve. As you can see, it gave you a loss. Only 1 gave you a loss. The other 4 gave you a profit, okay, over the specified backtesting period. Okay, so now on this day, you start trading live going forward. Okay, so which moving average would you choose? Again, if you're highly blinkered and you have extreme and serious tunnel vision, and you cannot explore or analyze the entirety of all the information that has been given to you, you're going to be in trouble. Let me show you why. So most traders, when they backtest, this is the backtest period. At the end of the backtest, they just look for the moving average that gave the highest gains, or all those that gave a profit. Okay. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So B, A, D, and E. Okay. This all gave a positive result, a positive gain over the backtest period. So this 4 moving averages, whatever they are, this could be 78. The moving average with a look back period of 78 that gave the highest gains, and the other 3 gave you gains, but not as high as moving average, which resulted in the equity curve B. All right. So most traders will select this moving average here. Let's say this is the 78 moving average. Okay. 78 period. Let's assume this is the 78 period moving average. A look back period of 78. This gave you the highest gains in the backtesting period. This gave you the lowest gains for the 5 that you have chosen to analyze or to backtest. So most traders will pick this, the 78 moving average. Let's assume it's 78. 78 period look back moving average. And again, maybe this 3 as well. Okay. Nobody will pick this because this gave you a loss. Which trader would want to pick this equity curve associated with that particular move? Let's say this is a moving average of a look back period of 120. That gave you a loss, okay, during the backtesting period. So nobody will pick this moving average based on equity curve C, but they'll select all the others because they all gave you a profit, okay? But this is a big problem. Can you see why that is the case? Because once you start trading, the day you start going live, you did not realize it's not how much you make above your initial capital. It's not how much you make. It's the action of the equity curve. We call this equity curve analysis. Look at the equity curve. In the initial period, it made a lot of money. In the initial part of the backtesting, it made a lot of money. And from that point onwards, it was falling. It was in a downward spiral. There was some kind of market mismatch between the technical trading system that you're backtesting and the market. Some kind of mismatch. We don't know what it is. There's too many moving parts, too many unknown variables. But for whatever reason, it made money initially and started losing money all the way down over the next 1.5 years. The first half year, it made money. Over the next 1.5 years, it started losing. Okay? There's a significant and serious mismatch, or a serious degree of not being able to adapt to the kind of market behavior going forward with respect to your trading system. Something's very wrong and you're losing. But because it made so much money in the first 6 months, although from that point onwards, it was losing all the way, but it still gave you the highest gains across your backtesting period based on all the other as compared to all the other moving, it gave you the highest gains. So you'll select this because you're only interested in the highest gains, but you did not realize it's on a downward spiral. There is a high degree of non-adaptability to market conditions. Something's wrong. But it's not. Now, although it gave you the highest gains, would you select this moving average as the moving average that you want to trade going forward? Of course, I will not do that. It's already, over the last 1.5 years, it's already losing every single month. Why would I adopt this trading system if it's already losing over the last 1.5 years? Although it gave you the highest gains, it's ridiculous. There's something going on here. I would not pick this. It's like you're trying to buy a restaurant. So the restaurant has been in operation for the last 2 years. And then you say, okay, I want to look at your books. You ask the restaurant owner, let me look at your books. I want to see your profitability and all the other cash flow and all that. He or she, the restaurant owner, is reluctant to show you all the information, but he shows you the profits and all that. So you say, oh, that's great. Over the last 2 years, you made money. You started with this amount, now you made this amount. That's fantastic. I'll buy your restaurant. The moment you get into that industry, you find that going forward, you start losing money. Although it was a fantastic track record, you made money, but there was some kind of non-adaptability to the market conditions. We don't know what that is. I cannot specify what, unless we do an in-depth investigation or in-depth analysis. It's not possible, but The thing that the equity curve is showing you is not adapting to market conditions. So although you make the most money, if you take over and adopt this system, there's a high degree of probability that you're going to continue in this trend, a downward trend in your equity curve, and you're going to lose money. So I'll never pick this moving average, which gave me, or which produced this equity curve, as one of my trading systems. I will never do that. It's on a downward trajectory. Let's say a downward trajectory in terms of its equity curve. No, although you made the most money, this is the wrong curve to use, because there's a high degree of high degree of probability it will continue in this fashion, in this manner, all the way down. It might reverse later, but I'm not going to take that chance. I am not going to risk my money, my capital, or my client's capital by adopting the moving average, or that gave me the highest gains in my backtest period with this kind of equity action. No way. I'm not going to do it. Okay? It's crazy if you do that. It's crazy to put it in, well, excuse my French, okay? What about this one? This moving average, which gave us this equity curve. Yes, it was a profit. It's above that. But again, it's on a downward trajectory over the last 1 year. Down, 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 down. Yes, made money over the back-tested period, but it's on the way down, down. For some unknown reason, too many moving parts, too many unknown variables. I don't know why. It just can't adapt to market conditions. Down, down. Would I adopt this? Although it made money. Would I adopt this moving average as part of my technical trading setup going forward? No, of course not. I'd be crazy to do that. Did it make money over the back-tested period? Yes. Would I adopt this going forward? No. No. Neither would I pick this. Equity curve D. Whatever this moving average is, also has a downward trajectory in terms of its equity curve action, or in terms of its equity. What about these two? What about these two? Let's look at this one. This is quite simple. I said during the backtesting period, it made money, but the equity, the trajectory of the equity curve is on the way up. It has never fallen. It's always going up. Somehow it has a high degree of market adaptability. It is very robust. Whatever market conditions that this tree cannot handle, this one can. But it made some profit, not a lot, as compared to this one. But I'll pick this. I'll select this moving average with whatever look back period that it has as and adopt it in my trading system. So B, D, and of course E. E is the same issue as well. So 1, 2, 3. These three equity curves associated with whatever look back period based on the moving averages that we were backtesting, I will not select these three moving averages. No, because they're all on a downward trajectory in terms of its equity action, in terms of its equity curve. Why would you want to get into a system that's losing over time? Although it made money, but over time, it's losing. Would you want to get into that losing trend, get involved with that downward trajectory in equity? Would you want to do that? I mean, nobody will, in their right sense, will ever engage in such a system. But I don't mind this one, although it made similar to the other three. But it's on a consistency in terms of its robustness to adapt to market conditions, and it's making money. Not much, but it's on an upward trajectory. This is one I'll select this. I'll select this as part of my trading system, whatever the moving average is. Okay. What about this one? Over the backtesting period, it lost money. At the end of the backtesting period, you started with this capital, you ended up with this. You have this loss here. Would I select this as my trading system, or adopt this as part of my trading system going forward? Yes, I will. Yes, it lost money, but you know what? Over the last 1.5 years, it's like a total opposite of this curve here. B, equity curve B, equity curve C is like the total mirror image of that. It started making money. It lost money in the first 6 months. After that, over the last 1.5 years, it was within an upward trajectory. I'll select this. Although it lost money, this is the moving average that I will select based on this equity curve. So I'll select A and C. I'll reject all the others. Although it lost money, but this is the one I will adopt because it has proven its robustness over the last 1.5 years. So there's a high degree of probability it may continue. You see the sense of as to what I'm saying. So it's not based on how much gain you make. Your decision in selecting the moving average that will give you the highest gain or the most gain, that is erroneous. It is misguided. You have to look at the equity curve action, not just whether it gave you the highest gain. In this case, I'll pick this moving average, which gave me this equity. Yeah, although it lost money, but over the last 1.5 years, it was making money. I'll select the moving average based on equity curve C and A. C and A are my choices going forward, and I'll select both of it, so I can diversify between using just as opposed to using just a single moving average and putting all my eggs in one basket. I'll select A and C, and accordingly divide the capital between the two. So I have two winning racehorses that has a proven historical record of wins over a certain backtest period. You see that? So the highest gains means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's the equity curve that determines which system you should adopt. You see that? This is the biggest mistake that a lot of traders make when they use a system to backtest for the highest results without knowing what the equity curve is, without visualizing or have optical evidence or optical reference as to what the equity curve is doing, or even the balance curve, either one. It's best that you refer to both. And that's why they select the wrong moving average, the one that gave them the highest gains over the backtested period. And from that day going forward, immediately they start losing money without knowing why. Because this moving average gave you the highest gains. Why did you start losing the moment you started employing it or adopting it as part of your trading system? It's because it's on a downward trajectory. That's why. It's simple to understand. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. So this is another. Well, let me just go back. Give me a second. So this is another, because of the way we are so blinkered, we are so tunnel vision, we only want to look at the greatest gains and not looking at the equity curve action or doing a proper equity curve analysis. We are in trouble. We select the wrong system to go forward based on just giving us the highest gains over the last specified backtesting period or backtested period. And that is the 8th hurdle. A lot of traders make this mistake. You see that? So in this video, of course, it's a shock factor video, but you have the solution. I've given you the solution. Okay? Look at the equity curve or the balance curve. Look at both, actually. Don't just look at which parameter or moving average look back period or whatever it is that whatever it is, doesn't have to be moving average, can be anything. Whatever system you're backtesting, look at the equity curve or the balance curve. Don't just focus on the ones that give you a gain and reject the ones that give you a loss, because those may be the ones that will give you a gain going forward. Although you lost money, but if you started trading this moving average, there's a high probability that you continue to make money. In a sense, it's a form of cognitive dissonance going on in terms of, if you're talking about psychology, that produces some kind of mental, conceptual mismatch in our understanding. How can a system that you backtested that made money started to lose money the moment you go live? Well, this is the reason why. So my advice or my recommendation is to always look at the equity curve, not at the system that gave you the highest returns. Although it is a good thing to have a high return, it is the equity curve that determines to a high degree of probability whatever has been may be what is going to come as you progress into the future, because a sense of continuity in the equity curve action, a sense of continuity. It's not guaranteed, of course, nothing is guaranteed, but there's a high degree of probability that it may continue in that fashion. All right. And again, thank you so much for joining me in this shocking video representing the 8th hurdle in trying to apply technical analysis to the markets in terms of backtesting and misinterpreting the results. Again, the solution is here. Just look at the equity curve and determine, let's pick the ones, whether it's it resulted in a gain or loss, that doesn't really matter. Okay, but what I'm saying that this is all based on probability. It's not certainty. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying there's a high degree of probability that whatever has occurred may continue into the future based on the equity curve action, the nature, the characteristic of the equity curve as it progresses going forward, of course, into the future. Where else can it go except into the future? All right, thank you so much for joining me in this video. And again, I hope you gain some enlightenment in this video. But again, I'll see you shortly in the next video. But until then, take care, be safe, and bye-bye.